Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. Excited to have you guys here. Episode 49. I'll go ahead and say off the rip, guys, episode 50. We are at episode 50 next time. That's crazy. I mean, when you go every other week, basically, it makes you realize, okay, we've been doing this for close to 2 years now, which is really awesome. Very, very fun. We probably have been doing it for 2 years because we've had weeks we've had to miss and things like that. So
yeah, it was September. I mean, I meant to next week we'll say the date of the first one just to celebrate the 50th one, but I know it was in September of 2023. So it's 2 years now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. Jason, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Life has been good. Not crazy good. Like, so we got it. This has nothing to do with board games, but I didn't mean to say this off air. So we've been at issue with our refrigerators for a while. We have home warranty, They eventually, after multiple trips, say, let's replace the fridge. Replace the fridge. It comes in yesterday. We're like, great. It's going to be a quick turnkey operation. Well, they won't touch the copper piping because they don't touch copper piping. So for the ice machine, for the ice maker, right? The water for the ice maker, yeah. I plug it up. I unplug it from my old fridge, not leaking at all. I put in the new fridge, is leaking. So we spent literally all day trying to fix it, running to Lowe's twice. It still has a small drip. Elizabeth is at Lowe's right now. We think we have the solutions. And my new fridge is pulled out. So we had to move that little breakfast table, right there, Robbie. It's moved out in the middle. My old fridge, we moved to the other side and plugged up. So at least we have that fridge. And so anyway, that was not fun yesterday, but what is fun is that in prepping for this, I realized I've played 11 different games since the last time we talked. So that's exciting. I've been on the game train for a while. 4 game nights, 2 game nights with the same crew. Dakota and Nathan, or Nate was at both of those, and Dakota was at one, but then also had Dakota and Marissa come over Friday night, and then some of Elizabeth's friends, Ananda and Hunter, came over a couple weeks ago. So I've had 4 different game nights. I played 11 different games since the last time we talked.
This man's an animal, guys. He's an animal. So. He's a social animal, even with a leaky fridge.
Yeah,
Jason, what games have you been playing in those games?
So we played a ton of good. I mean, it was actually tough. The 2 games I want to talk about today, I literally just played on Friday night with Dakota and Marissa. So many of the games before then were exciting, and then I knew what I was going to do. I made you a mixtape as the first game I'll talk about. And then the second game, it was a late decision to put on the table. And I was like, I think this will go great with Marissa because Marissa's kind of artistic. She's a reader. And then I'll jump to that in a second. So I made you a mixtape is a I Split, You Choose game. Love I Split, You Choose. It's quickly risen to the top of my favorite. One of my favorite mechanisms right now is an I Split, You Choose is where I made you a mixtape. Let's step back. This is not the main game, but I'm going to go a little deep on this for a second. And I made you a mixtape. The whole purpose of the game is you're making a mixtape to make the coolest, most balanced mixtape between alternative, R&B, hip-hop, pop, punk, and rock. Those are the 6 genres of music. And it's an I Split, You Choose, in that you are, on your turn, you're going to be given 3 cassette tapes, cards. On as a side, this is the perfect game to inspire our production of our card game, disc golf card game. It's literally the same. It's an all card game. You're given 3 cards and you have to choose 2 and 1. And when everybody's ready, you pass them to the player on your right, and they're going to keep one of those. They're either going to keep the stack of 1 card or the stack of 2 cards and send it back to you. So you may on your turn be playing 2 cards because you're going to do the same. You could be playing 2 cards, 3 cards, or 4 cards in front of you. And in front of you have 2 columns, an A side and a B side. And the card you have tells you whether it's an A-side song or a B-side song. And you're basically just playing those out in the columns. And the songs, because of copyright, like it doesn't say, like, so what was one of the songs? One of the songs was Smells Like Teen Spirit. It doesn't say Nirvana because they can't pay for that, but the words Smells Like Teen Spirit are free for anybody to say anywhere, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Waterfalls, pick any number of songs, right? Of hip hop and R&B and stuff. So it's fun to be singing these songs. Like, I love Smells Like Teen Spirit. Oh, I love this. I love that. Like singing these songs. But the songs, other than the set collection, have nothing to do with the game. It's just fun. The really cool thing, it's too light of a game to go deep. So that's why for you and I to go deep, it's just way too light to ever be a Bards episode. But when you draft those cards, you're playing them in front of, on you. But the card it looks like a cassette tape with like the cassette ribbon going everywhere, but it ends up going on the left, right, or middle. So as you play the cards out, you're trying to line up the cassette material, like the actual cassette itself, the recording tape, I guess is like a better term, because that becomes points at the end of the game. your collections of how many pop you have, how many RB you have. It's the more you have, the bigger your points are for that. And the last one is each of the cards has different balances. So it may have like a 3 or a 1 on it. So you're trying to balance the songs within the game. And so you're moving a cube left and right. If you're heavier balanced on your B side, your points are going to be lower or possibly negative. But if you're trying to balance those out, because every time you play that card real time, you're moving a cube left and right on a main score tracker on the top. The whole game is just cutting, splitting, choosing, placing, right? Super light. We had a good time. It was fun. Elizabeth and I had played it once before just to learn how to play it on Thursday night, and we played it Friday night, and I blitzed her pretty big on the genres, but I was able to stay balanced. But when we played, four player kind of changed the dynamic a little bit, but I couldn't get balanced. So, because if you basically on this balanced track, if you're always on the right side and you would play a card that'd make you go further, you just don't get to play that card. So it's one less card to give you points for the tape. It's one less card to give you points for your genre compilations. So it's basically a wasted turn. So I was fighting to get unbalanced. And if you're too far to the right, at the end of the game, those points are like -2 or -10 or -12 points. You're getting negative points because you haven't basically played enough. You haven't created enough B-side and A-side songs for your mixtape. So I made you a mixtape. It's not, let's be clear, it could be any level of genre. It's just fun. I made you pick mixtape. And it's designed by Mike DeLiso and, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the guys. It was designed by Mike DeLiso from the Dice Tower. And he hosts a podcast with his friend. I feel terrible for forgetting his name, but who's British guy, super funny. They have a podcast called, Sporadically Bored, where they kind of talk board games but kind of other stuff as well. But they've been designing this game for a couple years. It is super fun. All Play, I think, publishes or something, but I made you a mixtape. Just came in we just got it Thursday, and it was supposed to be delivered Friday. And I got Thursday, opened it up, we played it. Came in from we backed it on Kickstarter. So it's one because it's super quick. It's one definitely that you can play with anybody. It'll be a go-to to bring out with new players because the gameplay of it is so easy. So I made you a mixtape was the like I said, if I hadn't played it on Friday night, I'd had something else. But when we played it, it was a no-brainer. So our night with Dakota and Marissa was very thematic because in one game we're making a mixtape because we love music, and the next game we're painting these beautiful paintings, and it's a game called Canvas. Canvas is essentially where it's an open draft where you're drafting these transparencies that have part of a picture, half of a word, and some symbols at the bottom. And during the game, at different points, you're going to put 3 transparencies together in a sleeve with a background, and you're scoring based on what the symbols are on the bottom. So the actual painting that has no influence at all, it's just fun to look at. It's more the bottom has there's 5 colors, and there could be different symbols and different scoring objectives on there. And so for each game, you have 4 scoring objectives, which you're all going for. And when you complete your painting, you get these ribbons. And then at the end of the game, you get points based on the number of ribbons you have. But then also on those cards, on those symbols, there's also sometimes those cards have, hey, 1 point per this symbol on this particular card, or 1 silver ribbon per symbol in this particular card. And so now you're like, okay, well, cool. I will go do that so I can get some more silver ribbons. The key is the transparency. So I said there's 5 colors, but sometimes the bottom of the transparency may only have 2 colors with 2 symbols. It may be the blue and the yellow, or it may be the green and the red, or maybe it's the purple and the blue. So really the crunchiness is making those transparencies line up the way you need them to do to have the right symbols in the game for those 4 scoring objectives. Because we had one that was only one of this little wheel. If you had only one on your board, you got a ribbon. Another one was if you had every 2 triangles you had on your ribbon, on your painting, you got a ribbon. One was having one of every symbol. So sometimes you go heavy for one or heavy for another. Then there's also in-game scoring as well. And I had forgotten. I think I texted you this, and I told Elizabeth, and she agreed. Until we started playing it, I forgot just how crunchy Canvas can be. While it's teased as this beautiful game with this amazing art. Yeah, it's just fun art. I say really fun art. It's really fun. But then you're like, oh, wow, if you're really trying to score, you're like, oh, my gosh, I got to match these symbols. These transparencies change. But then I'm also looking for in-game goals. And it became, we kind of talked a little bit, but I referenced it very quickly to Calico. And that Calico's that, you remember the first night we played that game. It's a head down because you're thinking, well, this pattern and this color there is going to give me my 3, but it's not going to add my goal there. Well, there's that one there. And so Canvas is beautiful. It's amazing. The base game, I think, is like maybe $30 or $40. It's even that much. It comes in a thin box that is actually made to hang on your wall. Mine was the deluxe edition. They've released a deluxe edition that has the 2 expansions in it as well. We didn't play with any of the expansion material, mostly just because I needed to refresh my mind on the game. But But the new game, actually the newer version of Canvas, the deluxe version, has some of the expansions built into it automatically. Some more scoring things. It makes it a little bit easier.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. For those of you, we're going to try and do my best to catch it. But if I don't get the right audio cut for our YouTube watchers, I suddenly look a whole lot more red. So I'm wondering if it's going to be a white balance thing, because I am wearing a red shirt and I've got to figure out how to adjust that. But my camera just decided to die. And for no particular reason, it just died. But Jason, you were talking about Canvas. Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, for sure. What I thought to myself as we had that long extended break as you troubleshot, I was like, that's God's way of saying, Jason, you're talking way too much about games you played lately. That's supposed to be like a 5 to 10 minute conversation. I feel like I've been talking for 30 minutes because I had such a good time and they're such good games. So what I was saying, I think when we broke, was the one last thing I'll add is that it's a cool drafting mechanism. It's the small world drafting mechanism in that there's a row of transparencies. You can take the first one for free, but you can take ones further down the line, but you pay a little, basically a paint palette to do that. And the way you get more paint palettes at the end of the game, if you have end of the game bonus, you may have paint palettes worth something, but that's how you actually pay for higher cost things instead of using coins the way we do in Small World. I always like that because it forces you to make a tough decision. I'm going to give up this thing that could help me get a painting later, but now I'm going to get this. Or if you run out of them, you're stuck getting the first one. And that happened to Marissa a couple times. I think that really hurt her. She didn't play bad to do that. She had to do the right actions for her game at the time. But if the right transparencies don't come out to help you and you're stuck keeping getting the first one, that's the way it is. So Canvas the art is amazing. It's stunning. It's beautiful. It's fun. If you like art, it's fun to play. Definitely you can play it just to play it if you don't care about score. But if you're trying to score, it's a very crunchy trying to line it all up. But I love the puzzly nature of Canvas. We bought the original Kickstarter years ago and it was a runaway hit. Like it only came out on Kickstarter and the resale market was wild. I think it's the first game I ever resold for an insane amount because the demand was so high. And we played it 2 or 3 times and it just kind of failed whatever. Because at the time it wasn't bad. Wasn't great. It was like, okay, all right, no one really cares. Okay, well, I'll sell it. Made a great killing off of it. And I've been wanting to get it in again for a while. I ended up actually buying for Christmas last year, like for Black Friday, I found it like really cheap, the base game. Hannah has the base game. I gave it to them. And then I saw the deluxe version came out again. They had a sale on it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go on and get the deluxe version. And so I was finally happy to get a table. Fun game for sure. If you like art, look up Canvas. Awesome game.
Yeah. I think when we had a guest on in one of our episodes talking about it, he said, just talking to the crunchiness of it, he was like, it is a crunchy game for you gamers out there. But why they brought it and suggested it for the game that we were like, for the category we were looking at, was he said, the best part is that when you finish, it might have been James Hudson talking about it. I don't know. And so he was like, because at the end of the day, you're just making a pretty picture. And that is so, it may not score very well, but you're making a pretty picture. And I love that. I love that idea a lot. For me, games I've been playing lately, we've had our consistent board night, which has been really fun. But I'm kind of back on the Lorcana grind, which is why we did the episode on Lorcana. And I actually had the opportunity to play in a crazy large tournament. So, the largest competitive event I had played in going into this event was around 25 people. And this event that I played in had 454 participants. Right off the rip, there was a $25,000 prize pool for this event. So we're talking $25,000, Jason, to play a Disney card game.
Yeah.
Crazy. So went into it really excited. It just kind of brought a whole new level to the game that I didn't know if I would enjoy or not. And I found that I very much did enjoy it. The very deep dives. So walking in, we've talked about how there are different, color combinations. Your deck is going to be 2 color combinations. And so the meta is at the top level. What is the optimal combination of cards and the optimal combination of colors? Does it have removal? Does it have card draw? What all does it have? And so coming into that weekend, we just inside the competitive world, we were on set 9, had just released the week before, and they had just done a rotation, which meant that sets 1 through 4, every card in sets 1 through 4 was no longer competitively legal. So That is 206 cards in every single set. So you were sacking over 800 cards that just suddenly off the table. And a lot of really powerful cards that were in the meta were in sets 1 through 4. But set 9, out of the 206 cards, 173 of them were reprints, which just basically means they said, okay, these cards are now back, but they're going to say set 9 in the bottom instead of set 1 or 2, 3, 4. So you kind of get the chance to build. And there was one color that really shined, as this color is easily the most overpowered color in the game. And it was purple or amethyst, because it just had all the card draw. And turns out when you're playing card games, drawing cards usually is a good thing. So the more, if you're playing a deck builder, the more you get to cycle through your deck and see more cards, the better that is. So purple is going to shine. And there was 2 strategies. Do you want to step in and play purple and either pair it with one of 2 colors that really shine, which was blue, or gray, which was steel? Those 2 paired really nicely. Or do you want to try to take like a rogue approach and just be prepared that you're not playing the best color, but prep that you're probably going to play against the best color all weekend? And that was the strategy that I ended up taking. So I played, the main event was 9 rounds. And then there was a secondary event if you didn't get a top cut on the second day. And so the deck that everyone was most afraid of was a deck called Blurple, which was blue-purple. In my 13 rounds that I ended up playing, so 9 in the main event, and then my side event, I went 1-3. So I dropped after that because there was just really no point in playing anymore. And so in my 13 rounds, I played against Blurple 9 times.
Dang.
So like, you just know, oh snap. And then the times that I didn't play against Blurple, 2 of them of the remaining 5 or remaining 4, I played against purple with another color paired with it. So 11 of my 13 rounds I played against purple. So I walked in not playing purple. I played green, blue, or Baja Blast, and was like, I am so nervous walking into my biggest tournament playing a color combination that's just not the most overpowered color. And it was really fun because I ended up looking at 2 of the players that I look up to most in the game, and they're like touring competitive players. And they were on the same colors that I was. So it was just like a really confirming piece of, okay, I did the right thing. I made an analysis. Now, all the people, just so much better than I anticipated. Like, I knew they were good, but I wasn't ready for, like, locally, you make a mistake, you can somewhat claw back from the mistakes. These guys are killers. The way I was describing it is that when you go in, you look at like the overall competitive scene. Last year, there was 5 tournaments with 2,046 players in each of those events, or 2048, 46, 48, something like that. In order to make it to Continentals in Lorcana, you had to come in the top 16 out of over 2,000 players. That got you a Continentals invite. If you won the event, you got an automatic bid to Worlds, and you got to go to Continentals. So 5 people automatically punched their ticket to Worlds. Same thing happened over in Europe. Then you go to Continentals, and you had to come in the top 8 of Continentals. So of the people who made top 16, they all go to this 120-something, 160-something tournament, and you have to get in the top 8 of that. That ended up creating this pool overall of 28 Worlds competitors. So that's how good the people are. Jason, 9 of those 28 were at that tournament.
Basically a third.
And
third
understanding that
best.
also half of the competitors for Worlds were European.
Yep.
So, like, bro, the room was stacked. So it was really fun. Very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed the competition. It was definitely something the social person in me was like, man, excited to, I would love to do this again with people, because you just between rounds, everyone's like getting with their crews and their teams and they're talking. Definitely unleashed a whole new side of Lorcana that I'm excited to kind of dive into on the competitive scenes. And then when I came back, it was immediately like I played our locals on Tuesday night. and the first round or the second round that I pair into this overpowered Blurple deck, and I play my opponent, and he just looks at me like, I don't understand how I'm ever supposed to win in this matchup. And I had lost that matchup 7 times the weekend before. And I was like, brother, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, you can definitely win this. I have now spent a lot of time getting my butt beat by really good players. So now I know, like, okay, if I do this, this, and this, it's a lot harder for you to win. So it just, it was a fun little layer to it. But that's the biggest thing been playing lately, was Lorcana on a super competitive level.
That's cool. Where in, it was in Atlanta? Atlanta?
Technically Stone Mountain.
Okay.
The classic for anyone that knows the Atlanta, Georgia, there is a perimeter that's like establishes a 45-minute drive from one side to the other if you just stop for nothing on the way through Atlanta, of 285. And even people who live like 45 minutes outside of the perimeter still just say Atlanta. And that's where Stone Mountain's like 30 minutes outside the perimeter. But if you say, oh, it's in Stone Mountain, Georgia, people who know Georgia will know it, but people who say Atlanta.
You mean Atlanta, right? That's Atlanta, right? So yeah, I mean, by default, if you say Stone Mountain, I'm like, oh, that's the mountain in Atlanta that has the carvings on it, as opposed to being the city, Stone Mountain, Georgia. So
yeah.
Well, here's that was very cool. I mean, it's awesome to compete in the top. So you got top 40%.
Ended up placing like 200th. So was one win away from jumping like 100 spots. Ended up going 4 or 5 in the main event. So
that's cool, man. So here's the most important question I have for you now is, so if they've banned the first 4 sets, does that mean my booster packs box is not worth anything, or does it get worth more now? But since it's not allowed to be competitive, is that price has just dropped drastically and that I waste my time?
Yeah.
So on to it.
Yes and no. In terms of, there are cards right now inside of it that did get reprinted that are worth more, because people want to have the original. They want to have the cool card, right? Things like that. But then there's other cards like Rapunzel was one of the big chase cards in the first set. And she, from release, has been about a $50 card, just entirely. Whereas right now, because Rapunzel is not in the main like competitive core constructed, she didn't get reprinted. Rapunzel Gifted with Healing is currently market price, instead of $50, she's $17 right now. Yeah. So it's like, it's this tough balance of, there are certain cards that are really good, but sealed product is always going to like sort of retain value as long as the game holds value. So it's one of those like, your clock got reset on holding even more, because what will happen is, now let's say that the next major reprint set is a year from now, but they decide to reprint Rapunzel Gifted with Healing. Okay, well now your box just jacks up in value, because that's one of the only ways to like get fresh Rapunzels are if people have it open packs. And they're certainly not reprinting it.
Yeah, because when you told me about them going to new ones, you even told when we talked about it, you said the first 4 are going to be banned from competitive play. I'm like, well, the light didn't go off my head. I was like, I need to sell it soon, because I have that sealed booster box of those, that at various times it's gone from $200 to $400 on the Facebook buy sale group, and I haven't looked in a while. So
yeah, I mean it's
money.
It's funny, like people talk about stocks and all of that, and it is crazy how the market kind of fluctuates. So so like a month ago, first chapter booster box was selling for $358.
Yeah.
Right now, it's selling for $231. But like, it's once again the right thing happens, and suddenly it's like it just jacks up immediately. So
yeah, because when I first priced it like a year ago, 2 years ago, it was like $200. I was like, okay, we'll hold on to a little bit, and then I priced it a few months ago, and it was like over $3 on the Facebook group. I just didn't think about it really.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was more of just out of sight, out of mind, because it's sitting out there in my side table that I just need to sell it and just be done with it, and could have cashed in that $300 for now. Because I also have that Aladdin and that Genie upstairs that used to be 150 are going to be way less now. Like that's
the Enchanted.
I don't know if
several of the Enchanteds still hold their value. Like that one hasn't really dropped that much because it wasn't a super. That's another thing for people trying to like get into the game, is that there's two categories of people in Lorcana, right? Like there's not a huge collector's market just because there are Disney fans, but how you get the cards, like there are collectors though. And then when you get to the players of the game, there are people who are going to play super competitively. And then there are people who are tabletop, like they're dining room table gamers, and you do not always find let's see, Genie of the Lamp I think is nope, that's the new one.
It was Genie on the Job.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it now on TCG Player. It's 85. At least it's the first one I see.
Yeah. So, and that is right now, unless Genie gets reprinted, and he may, I'm trying to see. Yeah. Like if he becomes competitively viable, like he gets reprinted and he becomes competitively viable, you'll watch that Enchanted price just go. Like a great example is the deck that I ended up taking was a rogue deck, and there is a card in there named Clarabelle from all of the original Disney cartoons and things. And Clarabelle, light on her hooves, walking into the event, was a $70 card. Our deck popped off and got a top 4, and now she's 131.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Yeah. It's like betting on stocks. So fascinating. My favorite card in the game is an Enchanted. And when I bought my first copy of the Enchanted, it has an Enchanted version. And when I bought my first copy, it was like $80, and it just dropped all the way to 40. So I just finished my playset. So I have 4 of them. Whenever that card like rotates in and gets competitive, and if it doesn't, I still have my favorite. I have 4 copies of my favorite card, but
yeah,
that's Lorcana,
cool.
guys.
Yeah,
so don't want to spend too much time on it with
sorry.
but it's that's the kind of thing that like we spent a whole episode on it, and we couldn't even really touch into this side of it, and the competitive market, the trading card game market. It's wild. I will say that the venue is called Charlie's Collectible Show, and there's just a bunch of vendors, and you're walking around, and I walk into a booth and I see a Pokemon card that's like $1,000, and it's just, bro, that's so crazy that like one little cardboard square, $1,000.
Yep.
For a
crazy
children's cartoon. What a time. But what's not a children's cartoon is today's game, everybody. So, Jason, do you want to tell us a little bit about today's game?
Absolutely. We are talking about Mistborn, the deck building game. We've referenced it a couple of times because Robbie has played it before. I've referenced his games I've played lately. Brandon Sanderson fans, both of us. So, of course, we're going to definitely love it from that perspective. Released in 2024, so only last year. Designed by John D. Clare. The biggest thing that you would know from John D. Clare, he also designed Space Base, which kind of makes sense with some of the stuff. He's designed some other games as well, but his biggest other one is Space Base. Published by Brotherwise Games, which is interesting because Brotherwise Games, I'm guessing Brandon Sanderson's company created Brotherwise Games because that's what produces all of the, or most of the Brandon Sanderson game world. He just came out with an RPG for Across the Cosmere that includes both Mistborn and Stormlight, and among other things. So, and this also publishes, they also are the publishing house for Mistborn, the deck building game. It's 1 to 4 players because you can play it solo. Playtime is 30 to 60 minutes, and you can play it competitive or cooperative / solo. We will not be talking about the cooperative / solo play because neither Robbie or I have done that. Yeah. I've read a little bit about it, but when a game offers both, I'm 99% of the time just going to go to the competitive side of it, at least with the games I have that offer both cooperative and competitive, because in principle, many times it's like, well, if it's meant to be cooperative, it's designed to be cooperative, or if it's designed to be competitive, it's designed to be competitive. And the cooperative game apparently is really hard as well. Okay. I'll digress from that. Based on the hit Mistborn novel series by Brandon Sanderson we just referenced, Mistborn, the deck building game, is a deck building game that takes players in the world of Scadrial. Now, reminder, deck building game is basically where you're going to buy cards and play cards. You're going to buy cards and play cards. Clank does that. There's our biggest one. Dominion, another deck building game. You're going to buy cards and play cards. This particular one takes you into the world of Scadrial, which is where Mistborn is set. Players get to control their iconic characters from the series and burn medals to unlock allomantic powers in fast-paced battles. Each medal has its own strengths, from damaging opponents to earning mission points and then manipulating the allies, which are additional helpers you can have. There are multiple ways to win. Defeat your opponents in furious allomantic battles. Allomancy is the world of Mistborn in which you burn metals. Basically, in the world, you drink or you eat these metals, you swallow these metals, and it gives you these powers. So you hear us talking thematics with allomancy. That's what it means. Excuse me. You can either defeat your opponents using burning your metals in those allomantic battles, or complete a set of perilous missions, essentially moving cubes up tracks before your enemies complete the missions. Every game will have 3 missions. You can play head to head against your friends, or take on the Lord Ruler in solo or co-op play, which I referenced. So I intentionally went high level on the gameplay, because essentially we've talked about, if you're first time listener, thank you so much for joining. If you don't know what a deck builder game, referenced it earlier, but you're in a deck building game. In this particular one, we're all given the same 10. We're given 6 of the same cards and 4 slightly different cards that are our starting hands. We draw 5. On your turn, you're going to play those cards. Those cards let you do different things. One of those things is buy more cards as you go. At its heart, the big thing those cards do will let you attack other people. So one way you can win is eliminating everybody else, whether it's a 2-player game, a 3-player game, or 4-player game. One winning condition is basically knocking everybody out. You have various amounts of health based on how many players there are. Or those cards let you move up these tracks. Thematically, they're called missions, but it's essentially tracks on the board in which there are actions the cards let you do. It's just you move your cube up those tracks and get some bonuses up the tracks. There's also one automatic win capability. John D. Clare likes that. Space Base has one of those, where there's one card that you can get, and it's really hard to complete it. Mm-hmm. You got to have a lot of the hardest metal there is to get out there. ATM is really hard to get that, and you have to play like 6 ATM or something on that turn.
It's an insane amount.
But if you can do it, it's electric. We haven't, Ryder, and the last time we played, tried to do it, and he was probably 2 turns away from pulling it off, but he was never going to get there because of the way the game went. But he tried, because that card has to come out early, and you have to buy it early, and then you're hanging on to it, and it's doing nothing to you for a few hands, but then when it hits, it could hit really cool. So that's why generally there's 2 ways to win. So in a deck building game, we're buying these cards, we're playing these cards to let us eventually do these bigger things, hit more people, knock them out, or move up the tracks to win the game. That is the high level summary of how the game goes. I think we talked, Robbie, you've played it once. Is that correct? Or have you played it more than once?
Played it once.
Okay.
Yeah. Played it once. And my immediate pushback is on the time that it says the game takes. And I think that is, we talked about, and this will kind of play into the setup and teach, is I was playing with my brother and my wife, who my brother is the one that got me into the Mistborn world. And so I got it for him for Christmas or his birthday or something like that. And he was actually the one who first introduced me to a lot of board games. I remember playing Forbidden Island with him way back in the day. And, but he, with life and children and all that, I have taken the hobby, the 2 hobbies he introduced me to, board games and disc golf, and I've taken and ran with both of them. So he was trying to put his learn board game head back on for it, as well as my wife did not come from a large background of deck builders. So in terms of the setup and teach, I think that's something we need to talk about right off the bat, is that if you have a background in this, if Jason explaining, if you were scrubbing through Jason saying what a deck builder does, because you're I know what that is. I think the setup and teach on this is actually going to go really easily for you, because there's a lot of elements in this game that are brought in, and the beauty of the theme enriches those elements very quickly. But if you don't know a deck builder, you don't know anything, you haven't played a lot of resource management games, the setup and teach, I think, is going to be really the cognitive load on these super, super high. So it took us a long time to get going because we had to explain the turns. But the metal burning is, I'm going to let Jason kind of run away with this one, because teaching how the metal burning works is the core of the game, but also so complicated if you like know nothing about this world.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Even when I was really looking at this, as a gamer, especially once you know how to play it, it's all intuitive. It's all easy. There's nothing super heavy, and not even super, like, to me, Canvas, which is meant to be a light game, is way crunchier than Mistborn is for a gamer who's played it. Now, the challenge becomes is because your cards could have a bunch of different symbols on there that do different things, right? So when we talk about those metals, when we think about, if you've listened to Clank or if you played Clank, you're playing cards to buy more stuff, but the cards on there have numbers that are like resources to buy more cards. And you just play those cards, and those cards are activated once you play them. Dune Imperium, we haven't talked about. You play a card, you activate it. Dominion, you play the card and you can take the actions on there automatically, and then buying more cards requires resources or requires money. But in the unique thing in Mistborn is that playing a card doesn't do anything. Laying it in front of you does anything. You have to actually burn a metal, and that's thematics. We talked about it earlier. The characters in the game basically swallow metals to do their actions. So when I say burn a metal, every single player is given 8. The production, I'm going to jump ahead. The production is actually really nice because there's so much cardboard that looks beautiful. There's a dual layer deck in which you're doing things, and you're basically getting these 8 circles, 8, they're metals. They're printed on both sides, and it tells you what the metal is: iron and pewter and copper and bronze. And to burn it, you basically play the card down, take your metal off your row because everybody has the same 8, and then put it on there. So now I have burned pewter this time. Burning it just lets me take the action that's on the card, and the action could be any number of things. This particular one is a strategize, and it gives me one of everything, so it's super powerful. It lets me do all these single actions in the game. So that's burning. You can only burn that metal one time per turn. So strategically, if I have a card that requires copper and the symbols match on the card, match what the copper looks like, I can only burn that once. But a unique thing to this game, and I'm jumping into the heavier side, at the bottom right of the cards themselves have vials, and for our YouTube lookers can see it. So you also can now turn this card and now burn a second time if you wanted to burn another metal to do the card. That's the hardest thing to teach. Okay, using a metal to activate it makes sense, but if you have 2 copper cards in your hand, or maybe you have 3, learning how, okay, I can burn that, but I can do this. In the game, when you start the game, you can only burn 1 metal per turn, but you naturally increase your ability during the game. We all have a track that at the beginning of the game, at the beginning of your turn, you move a cube up, and basically it just means it's helping progress the game, and that as the game goes, eventually you can burn 2 different metals, and eventually you can burn 3 different metals. But it always has this ability that makes sense in the book as well. It's called flaring a metal. So I'm going a little deep here, right? So it's burning a metal is essentially a resource, right? We all have the same 8 resources in front of us, 1 of each. And so to play a card that requires copper, I take it off my row, put it on the card. I've indicated I've now played it. And maybe it's early in the game, I can only do that, but I have this card that requires pewter. Well, I can flare this pewter. You can always flare more than you can burn. And so now I can flare it, but now when you flare it, you turn it over, put it on your card. So it gives you an extra action. But later on, now that metal is no longer available to use on future turns until you basically discard a card. To get your pewter turned back over, reset, you now have to discard a card on a later turn that matches pewter. That's going very tactical, but it's hard to grok your mind over the flaring. It's hard to grok your mind, and the fact that you can only burn 1 metal each turn. And it gets really deep because if you flared a metal and then turned it over, you can't now burn it again because you can't burn the same metal twice, though you can use as many cards as you want to drink vials of it. Probably doesn't help a lot, but it's if you haven't played Mistborn, but you start with a resource, you can spend the resource, but the game allows you other ways to get more cards played with other things you can do. And then as the game goes, you have to remember, I can only burn 2, but sometimes you can take an action to let you move up your experience track. Well, now I can burn 3, and so now I can burn 3 again. And so it goes from that level. So that is where the teach is, and Robbie hit the nail on the head. If you've played deck building games, you understand the concept. I draw 5, I play all my cards, do what I can do. Yeah. That's it. That's the traditional deck building. Lorcana, it's hand management, but it's the same thing. You're not really building a deck, but you're managing a deck. In Lorcana, it's 6 cards, right? Or 7 cards. And so you're saying that you have your cards, you're playing them. like traditional deck builders, you'll play all your cards even if you can't use them all. You may, I say play, a card may not allow you to do anything, but it still gets discarded. So then you would draw 5 new cards as well. So that is a deep level on the challenge of the teach. Setup isn't bad because the insert in the box keeps everything separated. So you just give everybody their stuff, but it's teaching that thing. And one unique thing, I was looking through the rule book, and when you're talking about Lorcana, it made me think about this. So if you play this game, you'll see that it actually has keywords on a lot of the cards that I think when they made this, is Jason's opinion, is they wanted to have only the keyword on the card. So you would know that push is always this action or soothe is always this action. But that gets really deep, and you have to remember exactly what push means. So now it's interesting because on the card, it'll say, like this one, this is Vin doing an iron pull. It says pull, but then it tells me what to do. So having the word pull there doesn't really make sense. I think they were trying to get it more like a TCG or LCG, in that you have keywords that you just have to know to play the game. Right. Whereas this one, every time pull is on there, it actually tells you what to do. So that actually, in a teach, confuses people because people will see that word on the card and be like, what does pull mean? I'm like, just ignore the word pull and just read the words, because it's the words are right there. Elizabeth, and they're not wrong for asking the question. Like, I'm picking on my wife, but if that word's there, it's got to mean something because they put it there for a reason, right? They don't just randomly throw stuff on there. So it does throw things off because pull is that action. But then why would they have it listed like as a keyword? So that teach will trip people up because they're getting stuck on the word as opposed to the description, which the description is on there, right? So so that is the teaching people to understand the card tells you exactly what to do, but the burning of that is hard to grok you on it. And it's one of those, we say a lot, but we just got to play a couple hands and you'll see, and it'll make the first 2 or 3 times you do it, it's like, oh, it totally makes sense. Yeah. If you haven't done it before, if you're a hardcore gamer and you've seen somebody do a playthrough, it makes sense. But if you're a newer gamer, until you do it, this is weird. I don't understand. I'm taking a metal here and I'm sticking it here, but I'm putting it back. But the moment you do 1 to 2 hands, you're like, oh, okay. And now I got the gameplay down. Yeah.
And in terms of like that keyword thing, some TCGs will also have that listed. Like Lorcana does that on a lot of them, where it'll be like bodyguard, this character may enter exerted, and blah, blah, blah. But when you get to know the keywords, it's when they do something like that in a card game, I totally get what Jason's saying in terms of it's confusing for people because they're like, why is that word bolded? It shouldn't be like that. Has to mean, so this is pull, but then also it does this effect. No, that is what pulling is.
Exactly.
So totally hangs people up, but it's totally in a world where when you really dive in and you start learning the game, if I know what pull does, I can go much faster through analyzing the cards because now I don't have to read that block of text describing what pull does. I just know, okay, this card pulls. Awesome. Yep. And then I'm ready to fly through.
Totally.
So I appreciate when cards do that and make it easier for new ones, because as the guy who teaches the games most often at my table, it can get taxing mentally when someone's like, oh, remind me again, what does pull do? Oh, remind me again, what does pull do? And then the 7th time someone asks what pull does, you're like, are we just not listening, people? Like, what are we doing? So I appreciate that. In terms of theming, I think the theming is so ingrained into the game in terms of how the resource system works. Because I would imagine that if you have never touched the Mistborn universe, this system, especially when you add in the concept of flaring, sounds insane. It does not make sense. Like Jason's saying, I'm going to use this metal to pay for this card. Here we go. And if you're in the thematics of it, like a note that Jason has in our show notes is if you really love the thematics of it, then you almost feel pushed out of it because you're like, well, this person can't do that. So like, this is kind of lame that they can, okay. That I can get why you would think that. If you're a hardcore Mistborn lover, I promise you, it's not going to detract from the game for you at all. You're going to love the world because thematically, the reason flaring, and I kind of like bring people into this, when you talk about flaring, imagine like throwing gasoline on a fire, right? It burns it super fast, but you eat through the resource way sooner. So as these combatants are using their metals and their reserves inside of the Mistborn world. When they use those metals, it allows them to steadily push and burn through that metal. But sometimes when they want a stronger effect of that metal, they flare it, which burns through that reserve much quicker to get a more powerful action or opportunity out of it, which is why in the game, flaring creates extra actions for you, but you burn through your reserves faster. So you can't, while you can use it in the moment, if another moment comes up and you haven't had the chance to sort of sit back and recover and hit that reserve, refill the reserves, you are caught sort of without, which I think is really, really awesome. So I say that, like, once again, for most of our listeners, if you've not heard or read the Mistborn series before, Jason describing the burning and all of that, I promise you, if you just go look up a picture of this game, like rewind the podcast back and go look up a picture of a player board, that whole section is going to make way more sense. If you've read the Mistborn series, though, you probably don't need to see a visual because it just fits. And I think that is like a really unique part of the game, to where as an overall deck builder, I'm sure that the heavy board game critics are like unimpressed by this game. But if you love the Mistborn series, I think the theming is so packed in that resource system does make this game shine. I don't know your thoughts on that, Jason.
Oh yeah. I mean, you did a great way to encapsulate that for sure, because I watched before I bought the game. I was going to buy it no matter what, but I wanted to hear what some of my favorite reviewers talked about. And a lot of my favorite reviewers have played so many games that they've seen other deck building games that do similar things to activate their cards, right? So it was basically a deck building game in which I can attack other people, move up tracks. At the highest level, okay, that's totally. You either like that or you don't. Well, for me, I either know if I like that or if I don't. Obviously, I don't want to do elimination, but I like moving up the track. But the Mistborn theme is what makes me love this game for certain. If you're and you reference it, that's why I put in the show notes, because if you're a hardcore Mistborn person, you come here like, wait a minute, Marsh can't burn pewter. Why is Marsh doing that? And okay, got to step back a little bit. It's like you are getting to play these characters, and maybe they've expanded their ability. Won't totally get away. The word Mistborn explains what your abilities are, right? Some can do a lot and some can't do everything. But you will see brawlers in here. You'll see haze killers in here. You'll see iron pool. You'll see these words from the game. Just burning, to Robbie's point, just burning a metal makes, like, what do you mean burn a metal? Well, if you've read Mistborn, you know exactly what that means. You know what vials mean. So if you are a Mistborn fan and you're a non-gamer at all, definitely try it out, because it's a deck builder, but it's going to be a little crunchy for you. But if you are a gamer who've played some of our games and love Mistborn or really like Mistborn,
it's going to be a hit.
You will love it.
Yeah.
If you're a gamer who doesn't know Mistborn, but just likes deck builders, I don't have another deck builder that does this, right? I don't have a deck builder in which I'm taking this singular thing to activate a card, take out burning, activate that card, and then have cards that let me also activate it by tucking it as well. Even in Clank, you're using that card, and I love Clank. Clank, you're using a card that may have a strike on there, a money on there, and a move on there. So I'm doing that. So I get to do all three of those. But this, I can make a choice between, I could use it to activate it, I could use it to discard it to return a flared metal, or I could turn it, drink a vial thematically, and now burn another metal in there. So it's almost like these cards are triple use cards with respect to what you do in the game. And I love that I don't have, like I said already, I don't have a deck builder that does those things. So for me as a gamer, that was very exciting. I am not we talked about a big way to win the game. There's two major ways: is knock everybody out or go up the tracks. I've played 4 official games in BG stats, and it's 50-50. 2 were knockouts and 2 were track wins, right? I go into the game not wanting to go into a brutal attack mode, but sometimes you have to. And I was telling Robbie beforehand, we talked about it plays 2, 3, and 4. It plays solo, but I've played it at 2, 3, and 4. And 4 is the best for certain, because there's just so many people going on. And I didn't talk about this yet, but so one of the and 2 becomes basically a dueling game to knock each other out. Yep. It just becomes what it is. The tracks, moving up tracks gives you some bonuses, because as you move the tracks, you get some bonuses. But if one person goes tracks, unless they're agreed, they're going to go the track, you have to get into attack mode, because that's the only way it's going to happen. That's the best way you're going to win, because they will knock you out before you move up the tracks. But here's why. This has the King of Tokyo mechanism, in which when there's a little piece that goes in front of you, and so you're the targeted player. So if you have this little piece in front of you on anybody else's turn, if they play an attack, it attacks only you. So say I have the piece and I'm playing with Robbie, John, and Elizabeth, and one of them attacks, it only attacks me. But like King of Tokyo, because I've been attacked, I can now give that to someone else, or I can keep it. Now, if I have that in front of me, when I attack everybody. So if I have an attack of 7, I'm not giving it to one person. I'm giving it to 3 different people, right? That makes, in the multiplayer, in the more than 2-player game, that makes it more exciting and more digestible for someone who doesn't like take that attack games, right? Because you're not always being targeted, and you're accepting the fact that I can choose if I'm going to get attacked or not, if I'm the targeted one, right? And so I love that mechanism for sure. I'm not a big King of Tokyo fan because it's dice rolling, right? Yeah. Not a massive dice rolling fan. But the concept of that in King of Tokyo is brilliant, because you have more agency in that for certain. So the 2-player game was fun, but we were talking about it beforehand. So there's also cards you can get. They're called allies. So you have cards that go in your hand that you play, but you also have cards that are allies that go in front of you and stand in front of you. And they may give you additional abilities. They may give you protections. But in a 2-player game, I feel bad for Elizabeth, because she'd buy a really cool ally and then knock it out. She never even got to use it. I'd buy a cool ally, she'd knock it out immediately, because I just bought it. The very next person who can attack is the only person who can attack me. So it was not as fun. I don't want to say it's not fun. I don't like to take that games. Yeah. It was fun because you're still getting to play a lot of fun cards, but you have to accept the fact there's probably going to be let's see who can play the coolest cards to knock each other out the quickest.
Yeah. And I think that's a really cool feature of a deck builder that doesn't necessarily always show in some of the deck builders, where player count actually changes the value of certain cards, because you have this collective market that everyone's buying into. And like Jason mentioned, where Ryder went for this automatic win condition card, that has to A, show up in the market. B, you have to be willing to buy that card. So there's some definite randomness that occurs that way. But let's say you're a player like me, that Jason and I sit on opposite sides of the spectrum would take that. Jason's walking into the game wanting to win via tracks. I'm walking into the game like, I want to get that attack piece. I want someone to hit me for 2, because that's what they have to do. And then I'm just like, game on. And I hold the attacker piece, and then I swing out. That's how, when we played it, my wife ended up dying, is because my brother hit me, and Lindsay was just trying to do her thing. My brother hit me, and I just swung out and was like, all right, cool. Everybody dies now. And my wife still wasn't prepped to attack. And then John didn't draw any attack cards. So then it came back to my turn again, and I still had it. And I was like, ha, game on, baby. Wham. She died. So I think but that only works if the right cards come out. Yep. And so I went heavy on allies first, which ended up giving me just enough of an advantage that when people tried to come back and get me, my allies were protecting, things like that, because there was a multiplayer count to it. So I think that's really cool that it really does change person to person. Definitely makes me excited to play it at a higher play count, because you also, you have the time to sort of do other things. Also, want to talk about ATM, which is one of the resources inside the game for the strategy. I was really curious, inside of the Mistborn world thematically, ATM is introduced later on into the book, into the first book. So as ATM is introduced, it is almost heralded as this like godlike metal that it's more valuable than life itself. I mean, people's lives are being ruined for ATM is the most non-spoiler way I can put it. So that ATM is valuable. So I wondered, going into this, how much does ATM matter? because your characters all have these different powers that sort of influence how you should play the game. The 4 characters do. And so I was very curious. So I chose a character that cared. His ATM power was kind of impactful. And I was like, I think I may just go for ATM right off the bat. How doable is that? And I found that it was very difficult to generate ATM. And now I wonder, like, okay, I've only played it once. Are there cards that are just going to end up showing up later on? Are there tracks that will make ATM more viable? All of that. But I did really enjoy that. I think I leaned into ATM a little more than my opponents did in the game. And the turns where I got to use it had thematically that huge impact that I wanted it to have. And I think that's a really cool part about the game is when you have these like unique resources, when you get the chance to spend them, it should have a big impact. It takes me to Stone Age, actually, was what I thought of, where Elizabeth always goes for gold, I think it is. Because there's like one resource that you spend a little more on. Yeah. And like when she does the big gold turn, you're like, whoa, that was huge. Awesome. That's how it felt having an ATM turn, like a big, oh, I can catch back up by farming this really hard one. So I thought that was a really unique sort of piece in that you are deck building and you're doing resource management, but also there are these just factors out there that everyone can sort of track and see, oh, snap. Robbie is gathering some ATM. What's he going to do with it?
Yep. It's fun because ATM you will naturally get during the game because you have this like basically level up mechanism you do during it, but you only get a handful. And so there are some ATM cards that come out that are really big. Like one is you burn, I was looking through the deck and saw this, I go, you just burn a single ATM, but you attack everybody for 7. Like a single card that attacks for 7. That's only one of the metals you burned. And to be able to even play that, it would be later in the game where I could attack with that. And then I could possibly attack with some other cards. And basically, if you have the token in front of you, give like 15 to 20, like literally you could hit 15 to 20 hits on everybody. I think I've had multiple games where I was able to hit double digits on everybody at one time because of things like that. Now you're having to buy into it because you'll buy that card early and you cannot get ATM until much later. Like it's physically impossible to get the ATM till later because leveling up gets you that, or turning or using a card that has ATM vial, but those cost like 7 or 8 monies anyway. So they're hard to get because they're expensive and they're hard to utilize. But when you utilize them, they're big. You can always use ATM as a wild, so it could always be just an extra wild one you could use to burn. But that's just, it's not a waste, but it's almost a waste because using it for something bigger will actually add up. If you had to use it at that moment, you got to use it. So I totally agree. One interesting thing that I forgot to mention too on some tactical level of the gameplay, that as a side note, is that often in deck building games, you may have, your resources fall within a range of what you can buy a card. Card costs 2, 4, or 6, and you have 3 in front of you, or 6, or whatever that may be. Anything left over, you don't get to keep. But a fun thing about Mistborn is you can always turn 2 of your coins that are on your cards into 1 boxing. It's basically a way to carry over coins into later rounds because you may have 2 coins on cards that there's nothing out there that's worth 2. So you're not in Clank, you would just be lost. Oh, I can't do anything with that. Well, Clank often has another row of cards you almost can always buy, so that's the trade-off. But Mistborn doesn't have this consistent row that's always the same thing. But you can turn those 2 coins into a single boxing, which is essentially a single coin to use later at any given time on your turn. So that's a fun little side thing that I haven't seen in a deck builder before. There's a few things in this particular game. I'm sure other deck builders do it. But in this particular one, there's little things you can do that traditional deck builders do not really allow you to do. No. I'll say this too. Okay, I'm back. My thought got lost for a second. The game length we talked about a little bit earlier, I put in here, can vary from session to session depending on which path you go. And depending on the teach, depending on how it's going. Is everybody trying to go tracks? It may take a little longer. If everybody's in attack mode, it may go faster because you're always attacking, or it could get longer if you have really good cards to help you heal. Like the last time we played, I just kept healing myself. I could not do much and I couldn't get up the tracks, but I was not going to get knocked out. Like I intentionally went in, Liz was going to come out attacking, Ryder's going to focus on the tracks. I'm just trying to survive, right? That was basically my plan. But every time, I will say this, and a few of the reviewers I watched, they referenced that there sometimes could be not a runaway leader, but somebody who's clearly going to win. In all 4 of my games, it was a clear winner, but it was usually on my next turn I was going to win, but they beat me 1 turn early, right? So it wasn't like 3 turns out. You knew somebody's going to win. It's usually 1 turn out, and at least 3 of the 4 times we played, well, actually every multiplayer game I played, which is 3 times, someone was going to win, like the next person was going to automatically win if this person didn't win, right? So Ryder took an action that won, but I already had in my hand, because what was in my hand, I was 100% going to win because of whatever's there. I knew I was going to be able to attack people, or I could go up in the last spot on the track. So the 3 multiplayer games, while we saw who was going to win within a couple of turns, it was not they were going to win. I had no chance to win. I was like, oh, he just pulled the right card, right? It could be, if Ryder gets this card that gives him 1 more movement on the track, he's going to win. But I, in my hand, had those cards that would do the same thing. So for us, that has been exciting because we saw who was going to win, but we didn't see it like 20 minutes earlier. It was very last minute. Oh man, I would have won on my turn. And I think one game we had where like each of us could have won on our very next turn because we'd played a really good game that was balanced throughout the entire time. So that again, the game length may vary based on that. If you're pushing for tracks, it'll take a little bit longer. If you're pushing for attacks, if some are attacking and some are tracks, you're trying to counterbalance those, so it may go a bit longer. But you are actively involved in so many things, similar to King of Tokyo, because of the attack mechanism. While you're looking at your cards, you're seeing what they're playing to see if they're attacking you, to see if they're going to now give you that, and that may change your gameplay for the next time when it comes back to you.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened in ours. Is John went for this like healing build that he could sling out just a little bit of damage, and I was just no healing. I was just slinging damage left and right. And so it came down to 2 of us, and it was like, okay, John had a big heal turn and I had a little health left. And it was like, if I can't swing out for, I think it was like 11 damage in 1 turn, John will pretty much guaranteed be able to do the like 3 damage to kill me next turn, and was able to swing out and do enough. But yeah. Like it came down to it. So I guess I could see a world where you have a runaway winner, but yeah, I think they'd have to. I think a runaway winner would have to come down to some misplays by a lot of folks, and I'm if people misplay and someone runs away, I'm fine with that. Yeah, especially
exactly.
And maybe that happens in a world, right, where one person's played and the other 3 have never played the game before. But even then, it's not this such crazy complex strategy that, people just aren't going to smell they aren't going to sniff out what's coming. You're going to see it really fast. You're going to see the patterns. So I think that's pretty high up there. Replayability, because there's 4 different characters. I think that there is a ton of replayability because certain characters are going to be more inclined to go the tracks. Certain characters are going to be more inclined to go for the combat oriented, but also, I don't think that just because you picked the combat character means you can't go tracks. So I do like that replayability, and that you aren't going to be sort of shoehorned into, I only like to play Marsh. I only like to play Vin. You may enjoy that. And there are other games like we've talked about, Wonderland's War and things before, where the character you play is everything. It dramatically affects how you play the game. I think that the replayability of these is enough to give spice, but it doesn't just solo drive the game for you. So I appreciate that. Jason, you want to talk about the production a little bit? And even, I don't know if you have your pieces to kind of show little upgrades you've done.
I was going to show 2 things. One, we referenced, the production is great. The art is spot on for what the box cover has Vin, for those who know it, and there's a number of cards that just have they're very cool looking. The art's really cool. For those who are on YouTube, you can see here's Vin doing a steel push, or not a steel push, a steel push, where she's throwing some metal coins or some steel coins. The art is great. Even the base production, we referenced it. So here's the player board you have in front of you, and you have little tokens that are your 8 metals, and you're moving up an experience track here. A cool, I always like these cool dial based health trackers. They're always very fun.
Yeah.
This is what I'm about to show. Okay, this is not in the base game, and it's probably the coolest upgrade I've ever paid for off Etsy, but I just randomly saw it. But somebody 3D printed the metal, so it looks exactly like the cardboard, but it is actually Like it feels, you can tell it is, 3D printed, but it has the weight of like a coin. And so it's just fun to have this metal and have in your hand. It enhances the game in no way other than the tactile nature of feeling it. But as soon as I saw it on Etsy, I'm like, oh, I got to buy this because it's one of the coolest things. The coolest things out there I've ever had. It also came with boxings as well, which is the little coins that you can, if you spend 2, you can move on over on it for sure. But the art's great. You can play as Marsh, you can play as Vin, you can play as Kelsier as one of your 4 characters. So I said it earlier, but if you dislike Mistborn, I wouldn't play this game because you're going to see Mistborn everywhere. If you don't know Mistborn, but want a fun deck builder, like I had a lot of fun because we referenced a few things that aren't in my traditional deck builders. It has the basics of playing cards to buy more cards to do stuff, but burning your metals, flaring the metals, using a card to drink another vial, those aren't in any of the deck builders I have. And so that mechanism of that is super fun. You don't mind a little attacking. You are going to get attacked unless everybody at the table agrees not to attack. And then you're going to miss half the game because over half the cards are probably going to have the attack symbol on there. And you can't choose not to attack. If you play an attack, if you burn a metal on a card that shows an attack, you have to attack someone. And if they have the piece in front of them, they're going to get attacked, right? If you're okay with that, but it's to me, again, 2-player is attack all the way. More than 2-player, super fun. And that's why Elizabeth and I think said we won't ever really play a 2-player game because it just wasn't the same kind of game for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jason, you want to jump into cookies? I realize I've been looking at it, and we're on the longer side for an episode, but I think it's just because there is a lot of passion about the game. So, do you want to jump into cookies, or you have any final thoughts before we jump into cookies?
No, it's all good. Well, I'll say this: because it's a newer game, the MSRP is usually 40 to 45. I think it's on Amazon for 37 right now. So, but it is a lot of cardboard, right? It's if you haven't played a lot of games, dual layered boards are unfortunately expensive, right? And everybody has the 8 tokens, so you have 32 tokens for these boards. So it is not wildly high, it is a little higher for a game of playing cards for sure.
I am shocked that I would actually say I'm shocked it's only the price it is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've played other games that are more expensive than this, and I feel like I get less.
Yeah. It's not bad at all. Because it's the dual layered board. So few games have dual layered boards. And the dual layered board there to keep the cube there, your level you're growing up is pretty great. So cookie rating. It's definitely, I'll jump in. It's definitely not a double doozy, right? Yeah. It's not bad. Like I don't think I've said a single bad thing about this game other than at 2 players. It's essentially an attacking game. It's definitely not a double doozy. It is. I like the basics of this game, the card play of this game more than I do Clank, because I like that there's more options for the cards for sure. Clank just has a lot more cards. So that's not Mistborn's fault. They only have 60 cards or whatever. Clank has so many more cards that let you do fun things, right? Because it's Mistborn is the chocolate chip, because I love Mistborn. I was already reading Stormlight, and then Robbie started doing Mistborn. He mentioned Mistborn to me, so I actually paused Stormlight and actually went and took on Mistborn just so I could talk to Robbie and John about it. And then I love Mistborn. I still haven't read the second trilogy yet, the Alloy of Law and all that, but I've read the first 3. Audible, same. But I actually listened to Mistborn because of Robbie and by proxy because of John. so thank you, John. Because it's Mistborn, it's chocolate chip, easy for me. Because even when I play with Ryder and Mom, I kept talking about all the stuff in the book. I'm like, I know you guys don't care, but this is really fun, right? Yeah. To see these things I know from the book and this book series that I love. So for me, because it's Mistborn, otherwise it would be
Peanut Butter is our third.
Peanut Butters are third. Yeah. So I was blanking for a second. Otherwise, the gameplay, because I own so many, is a peanut butter, which is great. Still really fun. Would always play. But because it's Mistborn, it absolutely pushes it to a chocolate chip for me.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. It is definitely a chocolate chip for me. I think that honestly, one of the biggest reasons, because I love deck builders. You talk about I Split, You Choose is a mechanic that you're just here for. I find that it's really tough these days to find like new deck builders that are worth it. Because often they're and it sounds funny that we're saying it's a chocolate chip because of Mistborn, but I think that bad deck builders let the IP carry it. a lot of times. And so it's like why a Dominion is so classic is because the deck building aspect is so good. Whereas for me, I think if I was just like, oh, you've never played a deck builder, Dominion is probably what's going to hit the table for me every time because it's just raw deck building, right? Clank has that deck building love to it, but you also have to be worrying about the board and getting in and getting treasures and then coming out. Like there's a lot of stress outside. You could play the board wrong and have a decent deck with Clank and have a bad time, right? If you play Dominion, you build a bad deck, you're going to lose. You build a good deck, you're probably going to succeed. So if I was taking someone down the world of like, oh, you think you might be interested in deck building? Okay, let's go Dominion. And then this is probably the next step that I would take them. And I think that if you introduce people to this without having a Mistborn background, there's enough, like you said, cool elements that aren't in a ton of other deck builders that I've played that bring it a lot of joy. What I go to the whole time thinking about this, Jason, is I go to the Red Rising game, right? Where everyone that critiques the Red Rising game talks about if you don't like Red Rising, just play, what is the other game that there
Fantasy Realms.
Yeah, go play Fantasy Realms because it's just a better game. I never played Fantasy Realms, so I can't I can't speak to that. But I love Red Rising, so therefore I'm probably never going to play Fantasy Realm because the IP of Red Rising is so enriching for me. So with that being said, I don't think that you have to know the Mistborn series to enjoy the metal burning, the flaring, the resource management side of it. If you know Mistborn, it just takes it right over the top for me into being a really, really awesome game. So yeah, that's kind of where I settle on it. But yeah, solid chocolate chip. The only reason that I drop it from a double doozy is because the first play experience I had is because you can knock people out. I detest games where people get knocked out, especially if we're doing this for a board game night. I detest opportunities where you get knocked out and you're just sitting on your thumbs for an hour. I played Friday Night Magic this week and I was with 3 friends. We're playing our little pod and I am clearly in a position of power and the guy next to me also in a position of power. And the other 2 kind of accept like, one of these 2 is probably winning the game. I don't know. And I swing out and basically put the ball in one of the other players who was like, I don't know. I put the ball in his court to say, you can make this a 2v2 with us or a 1v1 with us, or you can let the other position of power player live. And maybe he swings out and tries to kill you this turn.
Yeah.
And he chose to let that guy live. And unfortunately, my friend Ryan gets knocked out. Like the guy doesn't save him. And I thought, okay, well, the game's probably over in the next 2 turns anyways, because he's going to take him out. And then it's just going to be me and him duking it out. All right, cool. That doesn't happen. And the game goes on for like another 40 minutes. And I just feel awful the whole time because I was like, I eliminated him and now we're just stuck here. And he was fine with it. He was such a good sport about it. He was like, that's how the game works. But when we played Mistborn the first time, that's exactly what happened. Lindsay died and the game went on for an hour of me and John going back and forth. And like, thankfully Lindsay just got up and left. Like she just went and played with the kids, but it was just like, so I hate that can happen in the game. And because of that, it can't be a double doozy for me.
That's true. We're lucky in that in the games we've had people eliminated, it was either the last, somebody eliminated 2 people at the end. When we've had people eliminated early, it wasn't wildly early. It was like 1 or 2 full rounds early. It wasn't, unfortunately, early the way Lindsay was. So we haven't, but the analysis is spot on. If you have somebody who just has a bad game or things turn out wrong and they're eliminated early, well, that kind of stinks for them, especially if you're all hanging out. I haven't had that experience yet, so that wasn't on my mind, but it is something I always need to be thought about.
Yeah. So just be cautious of it. And it is, as the experience guy, I don't like people having a bad experience, especially because most game nights in my circle is hosted at my house. So if I get eliminated and now I just got to sit here and watch you guys play for an hour at my house, that's frustrating because I'm like, can I just like, okay, when you guys are done, I'm going to be on my computer upstairs. Like, I don't know. Like that seems rude.
Yeah.
And then also like feel bad if someone gets eliminated at the house and they're like, I don't like, I'm blocked in. I was the first person here. Like I can't get up and leave. What am I supposed to do? So, I definitely overly cautious about that. To the fault of I probably have lost several games in my life before because of not wanting to have that experience for anyone. But yeah, so that's Mistborn. Guys, it's a long episode because I think that our passion probably carried through. There are a lot of elements to this for a game that for a deck builder feels relatively straightforward. If I can put it that way. Yeah. Like there are win tracks, there are things like that, but a lot of really cool elements. This is one that, I bought it for my brother. And if my brother lived closer to me, I would never consider buying this game, but because he lives 8 hours away, it is very much one that I'm like, okay, I think one day I will own this game for sure because it's just that good. So, Jason, any final thoughts as we wrap it up, sir?
No, I don't know if we said it earlier. We talked off air. So our next episode will be a top 10. Yep. So if you have any suggestions, we already have some ideas, but we'd love to know what your suggestions. If you have any suggestions, let us know what top 10s you'd like to hear from us. We've talked about like top 10 welcoming games, top 10 gaming experiences, top 10 2-player games or games at 2 players. I think are the 3 of the 4 top 10s we've done. Yeah. So, but if there's any top 10s you'd like to hear our thoughts on, the only one I'll say we won't do yet is like our top games of all time. You could put that down there, but we're not. That'll be like an episode 100 or something like that.
I think that will probably be like episode 100. That feels like a good benchmark for that kind of an episode.
Yeah, for sure. So you can put that one down there, but that would just be like a placeholder because we won't do that one yet. But if there's other top 10 lists you want us to talk about, just let us know.
Yeah. And if we don't do it that time, we've got episodes 60, 70, 80, 90. We got 4 top 10s between. So we will definitely be looking and reading those comments. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope you have a fantastic one. And spoiler alert, you're going to get Bards episodes a little closer than you're used to. Just throwing that out there. So we'll see you guys for your next one on episode 50. Adios.